So for someone who's traveling to Ghana for the first time, what are the cities, villages, towns that you would recommend that they hit up if they had, let's say, a week in the country?
Yeah, so most people, I would definitely change that week to at least 10 days because there are aspects of flight. It takes, a long time to get over there. I'm from the West Coast, so the minimum is going to take me 15 hours. You can get a flight from New York or DC for only 10 hours straight into Ghana. If you go for 10 days, you can hit up at least 3 different cities. And the reason why I recommend 3 different cities is because each city is very vastly different. And how I operate my group trips is how I would operate if I were traveling solo. So I will say the first city you're flying into is Accra. So Accra is the main city. Accra is popping. That's where you're gonna party all night long. Literally, when I say party all night long, their parties can last till 5, 6, 7 a.m. So if you're used to like California, Miami, California shuts down at 2, Miami maybe 4, but yeah, Ghana, they can go all night long. So if that's what you're into, you're gonna be very happy. Okay. There's also a lot of cool restaurants. Aesthetically, they're very pleasing. If you like day parties, lounges, like that's where you're gonna get in Accra, right? I would say the next city is Kumasi. So Kumasi is where the Ashanti region people are. A lot of people skip over Kumasi when they're there for 10 days, but that's where you can go to like the palace. We go to Kakum National Park. And this is also in between these cities. We go to something called the Last Slave Bath. And this is literally where the slaves took their last bath before being taken to the ships, right? And then the next one is Cape Coast. So Cape Coast is my favorite. It's funny, I don't know how to swim, y'all, but I love anything beach and water. And so Cape Coast is literally the coast is beautiful lines with water and trees and different things like that. But that is also where you'll get the history of the Cape Coast castles. So there's 2 castles, Cape Coast Castle and Elmina Castle. So that's typically what people do if you're only there for 10 days, okay? Of course, if you have more time, if you can stay longer, I highly recommend it because that is such a short amount of time. But if you can go up north to where they have like a safari, you can go to the Volta region where you can do boat rides. So there's just so much that you can do. And although I've been so many times, there's still stuff that I'm like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. And so, but those are some of the concentrated cities that you would go to if you only had 7 to 10 days.
Yes, I love that. I love that breakdown. And you have actually a wonderful blog post on your site that I will reference because you literally talk about things like Wi-Fi and transportation and like all the nitty-gritty things that help you plan your trip to Ghana. So I'll definitely make sure to link that in the show notes. One of the things I love following you and following your trips to Ghana, you do amazing photo shoots, by the way. You have had incredible massages by some sturdy fellows, which I'm like, oh, okay. And I've also seen videos of like cooking and you partaking in cooking classes. So talk to us about some of the immersive things to do in Ghana that you feel like if it's your first time, like try to see if you can actually do these things, go to these places because it's really amazing.
I don't care what country you're in, do a cooking class. So I try to do cooking classes everywhere I go because food is a big part of the culture. And if you go to Ghana, food is definitely a big portion of it. Everybody knows about jollof rice. There's jollof wars. I still say for our Nigerian listeners, Ghana wins it hands down. So jollof rice. So during our cooking class, we actually do jollof rice, and another one is called fufu. So fufu looks like a ball. It almost looks like dough, like uncooked dough, but it's actually plantains and yams, and they pound it together to make this consistency. And so you eat it with your hand, and you scoop it up, and you eat it with soup. They have something called red, and red is like black eyed peas and like sauce and plantain. So it's funny because I feel like food is similar to back at home, but there is their spin on it. There's spices, a lot of red oils and different things like that. So definitely highly recommend taking a cooking class. And funny enough, my cousin sent me a picture. She was like, look, I made red today. So it's cool to be able to take what you've learned, bring it back home and replicate some of the items. Danielle mentioned massages. Okay. So that is something that probably is not on people's itinerary, but I made it a part of mine. I think self-care is super important. So it's really cool to do a massage by a waterfall. And the part that was cool was, when you're in the massage parlors, you hear like fake rain and fake this. Like, no, I literally hear waterfalls in the back of me. And so when the masseuse was finished, a very nice looking gentleman, I like literally could have slept there for like 2 hours. Another thing I did mention is Ghana is really hot during that time. And so just being by the waterfalls was really refreshing and really nice. And then, of course, you had nice eye candy. So we do stuff like city tours. Definitely make sure, because you want to feel what the city looks like. Again, partying is cool and all that stuff, but what does the city look like? What are the historical points that you need to go to? We do stuff like ATV riding, like get off the grid, have a little adventure. We do waterfalls, of course. I can't mention enough how hot it is. When I tell people to join me, I say wear less clothes as possible. I know that sounds like what, but I was about to say, some countries you have to be very careful about what you wear. I would say like in Ghana, Accra, Kumasi, like you're open to wear what you want to wear. I will say if you ever head up north, there is mainly Muslim, so you probably should cover up more.
Let's talk about solo travelers. So if someone is like, I want to go to Ghana solo, what should they be thinking about when it comes to health and safety? Do you have any tips and suggestions there?
I've always felt safe when I'm in Ghana. I've never felt like I can't walk alone at nighttime. Like in terms of that, I think it's a great solo destination. I will say, although I haven't had this issue, last year somebody's phone was stolen, and it happened so quick. I mean, I was at a concert where there's a lot of people there. People are probably preying on people. So I will say be careful, like with your phone and stuff like that. Like I said, normally I have no issues, but that's something to be aware of. I will say though, although you're going solo, I still highly recommend hiring a driver and a guide. Okay. If you find two in one, that's great, right? But let's say you find a driver, and if they're just going to take you to the destinations, you need to know what's going on once you get to that location. So that's why I said I think it's best to hire a guide, because I've heard some people's experiences like going solo and they're like, oh, it was just okay, but I'm like, yeah, because the guide is going to tell you different information once you arrive, and there's conversation along the route to wherever you're going. Tell them to teach you, the language is called Tree, the local language. So have them teach you some local tree phrases and different things like that. So having that guide is super important. I don't feel like you can necessarily navigate it on your own, because again, remember I mentioned those 3 different cities. Those cities are hours apart. And so it's just better to have somebody that already knows, and again can give you that local feel in terms of like what to do, where to go. And I don't know about anybody else, but I love to meet other people. So usually they have friends. All right, let's go out together. Okay, this is your friend, this is my friend. We're all come friends together. So that's what I would say in terms of that. And in terms of like just looking for places to stay, there you can stay at the popular hotels. If you're into luxury, there's like the Kapinski, but I would say Airbnb is great.
So let's talk about affordability. You kind of teased a little bit, and this show is half travel, half personal finance. So I always want to know cost, right? I know that tickets, airfare from the US to the African continent is, whew, all right, it's a little sweaty because I know it's pricey. Okay. But again, affordability is subjective too, right? It's everyone has different financial situations. So when it comes to affordability, how does Ghana fit in that scale? How affordable is Ghana? What are their opportunities to save money? Anything we should know about financial wise?
So one thing I do want to mention, since we talked about solo and group travel, I would definitely, of course, say being on a group travel, you're going to spend more money, right? That just is what it is. I don't think people realize when you do group trips, not only do you have to pay for your accommodations, your excursions, you still have, me as a person that does it, I have to pay for staff, I have to pay for different things. So that cost is going to be figured out into there, right? But of course, if you go solo, you're gonna save money for sure. But again, how are you gonna navigate that? I mean, you have to call different people. You may have to say, okay, I need a cooking class over here. I want to buy tea class over here. That can be a lot to figure out. So cost wise, definitely cheaper doing solo versus group. But you got to think about what's more important. Is it saving money or is it the ease of travel? Okay, that's one thing I want to point out. The other thing about airfare, yes, airfare can be super expensive, especially around December. I think I spent around 1,700, 1,800. And I think my mom and them spent 2,100 for a ticket. And so that's relative to, when you buy it and different things like that. So that is super expensive for a flight, right? But if you go at other times of the year, you can get it a little bit cheaper. And then once you get on the ground in Ghana, I would say it's not as expensive. So of course, food is very cheap, and that's subjective too. So I did go to a restaurant, and I think I spent about $50. That's expensive for Ghana, right? But you can go to the local chop shop and get something for, $5. There's KFC. I forgot to mention that's cheap. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can get for cheaper. So I say food is definitely cheaper. If you want like outfits made, to me that's very inexpensive. Hotels, different things. If you want to be a rich king or queen, they got that luxury for you. Or if you say, I want to do a hostel, we done a hostel, I think, when we were on our first trip there in school. Or you could do middle range where, you're paying 100 something per night. So you literally can get whatever you want in Ghana. So I think that's really up to your budget. And then again, the stuff to do, once you get to the sites are not as expensive. It's getting there. That's the issue. Because things can be far apart. Especially if you want to go to those other places. Like everybody has to go to Cape Coast, right? That's where the slave castle's at. That's at least a 3 to 4 hour drive. So of course that's fuel, that's a car. So that excursion it may be $100 and something because somebody has to transport you there and still take you back to Accra. So that's what it means by just like a little sample of a budget. I know that's very broad, but it's very broad because you have to determine what type of traveler are you. Some people say, I really care about where I stay and I want the most luxury stay. For me, I'm out from 8 to 4, 8 to 5 during the day. So I'm just like, do I need the most luxurious stay? And then I may still be like, okay, we're napping for 2 hours and now we're about to go out to the restaurant. Now we're about to go out. So how much time am I really spending in the room? So it really just depends on your budget. And everybody knows how much you want to spend while you're there.
That travel style comes up again. Like you have to know that your interests, what you prefer, all those things come into play. But I also know that sometimes getting to a destination is the priciest part, or sometimes it's like the cheapest part. And then the dynamics of the economics when you're there, it's different. So I appreciate that clarity when it comes to Ghana in particular. Now, I've seen you plan group trips around New Year's. So, two questions, twofold. When would you say is the best time or a good time to actually go to Ghana? And what's happening in New Year's? That I always see you planning New Year's trips around Ghana.
Right. So actually, talk about great marketing. Ghana did great marketing a couple years ago before the pandemic, and it's actually called the Year of the Return. So they basically pleaded to people in the diaspora, like, hey, come back home. So a lot of us do not know where we came from, right? So when an African country says come back home, you're like, all right, we going back home. And so because of that, it has just grown year by year of people coming back at that particular time. So that was the initiative. I don't know if they're actually calling that now, but now it's catching on. So in December, there are parties, there are concerts, there's fashion shows, there's galas, there's conferences, whatever is going on, you name it, they have it during that particular time. There's celebrities out there. And so everybody and their mama's out there. So funny enough, it's almost like a low-key reunion because I've met people that I've never met in the States. Of my Facebook friends, we have met in Ghana, like of all places. So I think that's the reason why a lot of people go up from that initiative, and now it's just grown to these different things. And so that's why we go back in December. So, but December is also the most expensive time to go because it's Christmas time, holiday. So remember, not only are people from all over the world coming, but people that have family that are coming back home for the holidays. So everything I feel like is just increased at that particular time. But I will say anytime is a good time to go. Again, keeping in mind that they don't have like a winter season. So you're going to get like rainy or you're going to get really hot. Even though the heat is a lot, I don't want to go during rainy season because, that's traffic. It stops things, slow things down. So I would say check to see when their rainy season is and go another time besides that. But like August, they have a big festival. So you can also look for other festivals that they're having. So August would be a cheaper time to December, but there's still a lot of stuff going on during that particular time. So I would say look for some of the most popular things, or you say, I don't care about that. I just want to go. It would probably be cheaper maybe when there isn't a festival, right? Because, but there's always something to do. So you don't have to worry about that portion.